Hey everybody, my name is Darrian Mikell. I'm 31 and I live in Noblesville, Indiana, with my wife and three kids. I want to say or start by saying thank you to Zach for giving me an opportunity to share my story and my testimony. I have to admit it's very awkward to do this, but I appreciate it because it's made me think about how Christ has impacted me throughout my life. And I think as Christ followers, it's important to know why we believe what we believe and to be able to share that with other people. So thank you for giving me this opportunity, this platform to do that and have this exercise for myself even. If I was to summarize my testimony, it's a story of how Christ has pursued me and has never let me leave. I think sharing your testimony is sometimes difficult because everyone has a different story. And I've heard plenty of testimonies where someone's gone through a lot of trauma or tragedies that they've overcome. We've all gone through things, but for me, sometimes I think my story is pretty boring. And so sometimes it makes it difficult to share. But for me, I found Christ when I was young. I was in elementary school. I'm not even sure, how old I was, probably 6, 7, or 8. One of the things that my parents were really intentional about was putting me and my younger brother in a Christian environment. So from the time that I remember kindergarten and on, except for high school, I went to a public school in high school, but for most of my life, I've been in a Christian school environment. And whatever viewpoints you have on that, I'm really appreciative of that experience because it gave me an opportunity to, one, just encounter and experience Christ. I have a lot of people that have friends or people that I've interacted with throughout life that don't fully have the knowledge of Christ to really understand what that could mean for their lives. But fortunately, I was able to experience that at a fresh and early age. And so, yeah, I accepted Christ really early on. For me at the time, I knew Jesus loved me. That was one of the things that, every kid in Bible school or Christian school learns is Jesus loves you. And then that there's a heaven and a hell. And I wanted to go to heaven and be with Jesus. And so that was about the extent of why, when I accepted Christ, what I knew. As I learned more and more, Christianity for me, part of my story is that Christianity for me was very knowledge based and less about knowledge based and works based, and less relationship based. So for me, all of my experience for a while was just learning through Bible class, through chapel, and through church, what it looked like to follow Christ and learning about through the stories and through the teachings what Christianity was about. And so for me, it was just all about learning. And I was a very achievement mindset type person in school, straight A's. And so for me, Bible was more or less an exercise in thought in a class that you take. And again, less about the relationship with Christ. But when I say Christ pursued me, one of the things I point to most often when I think about that is college. So like I said, I grew up in Christian school, went to a public high school, and coming out of high school, it was very I played a couple of sports throughout my life and was fortunate enough to play sports in college. But one of the things that I was very focused on was, what school would allow me to play the sport that I wanted to play. And then also I wasn't very sure academically what I wanted to do. I was really good at math, so I thought I wanted to be an engineer and started off at Purdue University where I was running track and then also studying to be, or what I thought was going to be studying to be an engineer. One of the things that happened the first semester was I actually failed, just completely failed academically, and I had been a straight A student for virtually all of my life. And so that was one of the first times I've experienced failure, and it kind of rocked me. It was very, very different, but through those circumstances, things opened up for me. I ended up rethinking what I wanted to do, and what my focus was going to be academically. And it led to me reaching back out to the coaches at Indiana Wesleyan, where I ultimately transferred to play basketball and also switch majors. And so the reason I point to that is because, again, the environment that Christ was calling me to be a part of. I didn't really see it at the time. I just thought, I don't think engineering's for me. I think business is the move. And if I'm going to switch majors, why don't I go play basketball? Since the coaches had recruited me out of college. And so it was kind of circumstantial. At least that's what I thought. But when I got on campus, started spending time with the coaches and my team, and just being in that environment, I started to really learn what it meant to be a disciple of God and of Christ, and where I truly experienced what it meant to have a relationship with Christ. And a lot of that was through my time with the basketball team. We were obviously very focused on being better at our craft of basketball, but equally, if not more important, was how the coaches poured into us as people and focused on our relationship with each other, but how we were growing and developing as disciples and in our relationship with God. And so when I think about that experience for me and how it impacted my life, it showed that God loved me enough to want me to be in a specific place. And that specific place has grown fruit in my life in a lot of different ways. Those coaches I still have a good relationship with, and I lean back on a lot of the things that I learned under their teaching. And then that experience, that time in college, brought some of the people that are closest to me that also follow Christ and help me sharpen as a better person, as a better man. So those people are some of my best friends, but then also my wife I met while I was there. And like I said, these are people that continuously pour into my life, hold me accountable, not just on my everyday, but also, again, in terms of how I'm doing spiritually in my walk with God. And so that's one of the key ways that I think about, like I said, Christ continuously pursuing me in my life, because there's been multiple times where I feel like I have gotten a lot of knowledge. Like I said, I've grown up reading the Bible, understanding the stories, and there's multiple times in my life where I've basically been jaded by Christianity, where I felt like there's not much more for me to learn. But over and over again, Christ exposes himself in different ways to me through teachings of other people, through those relationships I mentioned, and just through reading his word, where I get called back and fired up again about what it means to be in relationship with him. And so my experience is growing more and more, and I'm still discovering what it looks like to truly have a relationship with him and pursue him. But what I've learned over time is that my mindset is geared towards this achievement. Like I mentioned, my career right now, what I do is I started a company. So I'm the founder and CEO of a software company, and I have this orientation towards wanting to pursue big things and achieve big things and work and strive after things. And what I've learned is that is one of my shortcomings when it comes to spirituality and things that an area that God is continuously working in me with, because Christ is a free gift that God has given us. And for what he asks of us is to stop striving, stop trying to do so many things, and simply let him work in us. And that's something that that's continuing to develop in me, and I'm continuing to learn. One of the other biggest things that I can point to where Christ is pursuing me is, again, in my or my adult life. I was in a small group with one of my friends that was leading it. And like I said, I felt like I had learned all the different things about Christianity, but something new hit me in a unique way, where you're taught that Jesus was man and Jesus was also God, but those things never really reconciled in my brain. And the way that it was taught to me this time was that Jesus was fully human. He had the same flesh and blood like we have on this earth. The difference is he fully relied on the Spirit of God. So he didn't use his innate God power that he possessed. Instead, he put it in his back pocket and fully relied on the Spirit through prayer and through his relationship with the Father to carry out what he was meant to on this earth. And the coolest thing is that he has given us that same opportunity, that same Spirit, and just asks us to tap into that power source. And so that is one of the things that I'm trying to do right now. And like I said, growing and learning along the way. I hope this is helpful. And again, I want to say thank you for allowing me to share my testimony. But if I was to leave with one big takeaway, it's that we were before Christ, and even with Christ, we're flawed human beings that were on a path of destruction. Every testimony points to this fact that without Christ, we were on this path of destruction for death, and Jesus interceded for us. So regardless of what my story has been on this earth, it would have been complete failure, complete disaster, without God coming into my life. And I'm grateful and gracious every day for him interceding on my behalf and taking what could have been the worst thing ever away from me. And so, yeah, thank you. Hope this is helpful. And yeah, take care.